Hey guys, this is your host Nitin Binhani, and a very warm welcome to my startup podcast channel Jazair Audio, where we share real stories with real learnings.
In today's podcast, we are covering the Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal's slanderous remarks that many startups in India are overly focused on food delivery, betting, and fantasy sports apps. This has irked most Indian founders and the ecosystem alike. And amongst them, a strong rebuttal has come from Mr. Mohandas Pai, the chairman of Aaron Capital and former CFO cum board member of Infosys, in his recent interview on ET Now. Let's hear first the sharp critique by Piyush Goyal, who said this at the Startup Mahakumbh event.
What are India's startups doing today? We are focused on food delivery app, turning unemployed youth into cheap labor so the rich can get their meals without moving out of their house. And against that, what does a Chinese startup do? Work on developing electric mobility, battery technologies, and with that, they're today dominating the electric mobility ecosystem.
In a swift retort, Mr. Mohandas Pai said this in this interview.
I don't agree with the commerce minister because if you look at what China did, many of these delivery companies, e-commerce companies came long before they started investing in EV and semiconductor chips and other areas. Please remember, the Chinese government said they're going to put $150 billion into AI about 5-7 years ago, and they put money. How much money has the government of India put into AI? The point I'm trying to make is they gave $50 to $60 billion for the last 10 years for EV to create battery technology and everything else. And they have invested hugely in the chip industry in many areas. How much has the government of India invested? They got a 10,000 crore fund for AI, which you read about. Nothing. I don't see much investment being made. How much money is put into R&D into our universities? How much has CSIR and DRDO given to the private sector and joined with startups? Yes, the defense ministry is doing some wonderful work. It is beginning to make an impact. That's very good. SRO is beginning to do some good work. The 1,000 crore fund is work. Look, we have more than 4,500 DeepTech funds. I've been investing in this area for the last 13 years. In our portfolio across many funds of 500 startups, we got more than 50 DeepTech funds. And all of them are struggling to raise capital to grow and to do business in this country. Right. China is a $19 trillion economy. We are a $4 trillion economy. The US is a $32 trillion economy. And to compare all the three and say we got to overtake China without putting money to work, without having the funding, without having institutional finance, I think is a sad joke. The commerce minister should not have made the remarks about the delivery companies because they're doing a great job. They got great technology. It's not easy to do 50 lakhs, 25 lakh transactions in a day. They're all doing a great job. They're using AI. They're developing cloud technologies. They got fantastic technologies. They're creating 1 million jobs across the industry. And that is not easy. Which government organization created 1 million jobs? He says delivery boys, yeah, that's the job that is there. They get paid reasonably well. It's a part-time job like Ola, Uber. Yes, that's the nature of the beast.
In response to India's pale comparison to China's EV tech, here was what Mr. Mohandas Pai had to say this.
Let me explain. We got a company which has created a 1 megawatt fast charging mechanism for a bus which can charge a bus in 15 minutes. It's called Exponent in Bangalore. They've done it. They put a lot of money to work. They're deep innovators. But then when they want to sell to the bus industry, 95% of buses are run by the State Road Transport Organization. You know how it is to deal with them. It's very difficult to do business in this country. And you know, our EV buses program is very small. China started the EV bus program 10 years ago. 80-90% of buses are EV buses in China today. Look at the state in India.
On deep tech innovation, Mr. Mohandas Pai highlights how and why the US and China have braced ahead of India.
There are no quick returns in deep tech. It takes multiple years to have the technology right and to do the work. We need long-term patient money. China has got long-term patient money through the government. And in the United States, the long-term patient money to the National Science Foundation, to the universities which work, and they got a huge market. Let me give you some data. 2014 to 2024, India invested $160 billion into venture and startups. China, $860 billion. US, $2.32 trillion. What is the comparison? What Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal should have done is to say, this is the state of affairs. We're going to help you. We're going to remove barriers. We're going to make sure that you get more capital. We're going to put money to work. He didn't make the remark. It is pointing finger, which is very unnecessary bringing down this industry. And look at that document that you released. I don't know who's prepared that document, where the document is illogical to say that India does not have EV companies, battery companies, does not have this. Yes, we don't have companies of scale. We got much smaller companies. There are many AI companies in Bangalore. I meet many of them. In our portfolio of 500 startups across many funds, you got 50 deep tech companies. We've been holding them for 9-10 years. I know the struggles they have for getting money. No, the growth is impaired. No, how difficult is to business. You must help us out in all these areas instead of pointing fingers. India has to grow up. Let me give you some more data. The government of India and state government spend 9 lakh crore as subsidies for the poor. Good luck to them because we need to help them. How much money is put into innovation in India across the government of India and state governments? Just give me a number. But 1,000 crores, 2,000 crores, 3,000 crores. Why can't both spend 20,000 crores a year in innovation, in helping deep tech create high quality jobs? Let them invest through the funds. Look, China is $19 trillion. Even if they grow at 4%, they will add 800 billion every year. We are 4 billion. We grow at 10%, we'd add 400. China invests every year 40% of GDP. What is 40% of GDP for China? That's about $8 trillion they invest. How much do we invest? $1 trillion. So let's be realistic. Yes, we'll be much bigger. We'll be on the way to do many things that we can't do, but we cannot be a China. We cannot be a China. We don't have the money. We don't have the willingness. We don't have the government policy. We don't have the focus in this country. I'm only saying we have a problem about deep tech startups in number and scaling up. We have more than 4,500. A lot of people are there. They're innovating. They're doing great work. We need capital. Help us raise capital. Help the universities do more R&D. Help the research labs interact with them and work together so that we can do more. Look, deep tech sector has the greatest potential, but is long term. It takes 5-10 years to do. We need more capital. Biotechnology is deep tech, and we need many more. Genomics is deep tech. We need many more. And these delivery companies and cloud technologies and hyper cloud, we need many more. In chip design, we are the global experts because we got 350,000 people working in Bangalore in chip design, testing, and embedded software. Now we have to invest in small chip design companies who can make great stuff. Now semiconductor fab companies, not the fab companies, but the packaging companies are coming up and they're going to use our talent. So we're going to see this only happening now. When did the semiconductor fab companies come into being? 2 years ago. Before that, what was there?
Did you know, unlike in the US and China, barely 15% of the $145 billion investment so far in the Indian startups come from domestic investors? Here was what Mr. Mohandas Pai had to say on this.
The largest part of money going into venture and startups come from endowments and from pension funds and insurance companies in India. The insurance companies have got an AUM of close to 80 lakh crores. The pension industry has got about 25 lakh or 30 lakh crores. 100 lakh crores of AUM is there between them. How much are they invested into venture and startup? Peanuts. Hardly any number that you can quote. Why is that? Because some silly regulations which IRDA is not allowing them to do that. How much money is being invested by the sectoral funds that the government has? We had a 10,000 crore fund in 2015, which is very good, which helped, but nothing else. In my state of Karnataka, which has got more than 25 lakh people working technology, $80 billion of services exports, 20,000 startups, 45 unicorns. How many funds and what does the government has done? Is the state government putting any money into here? Nothing. They don't even talk about it. We want more funding. We want endowments to make the funding. Universities have got endowment. Why can't they put 5% of the total endowment into funds? Allow them to do that. They're not allowing them. Why? Let the university decide. It's their money. If they surplus money, they let them do it.
On how Reserve Bank of India, or RBI, is stifling AIFs and stymieing investments in startups, Mr. Mohandas Pai shares his own experiences.
And RBI, harasses AIFs, goes on changing regulations. Now they're threatening to penalize them because they issue partly paid units, saying they're like partly paid shares. So you cannot issue them. You are contravening the law. Whereas the regulations do not talk about partly paid units because all around the world, you issue partly paid units and the units get fully funded in about 3 to 4 years. They don't understand the industry. They want to create their own thing or they want to penalize. And when the startups are sold and money has to be remitted, you should know the horror stories that happen in remitting money, getting in money, remitting money to the RBI. We told them have a process like funding, like investing in the stock market, which is done very easily. They still are not working it. And the regulations are very vague in many areas. You write to them, they don't even reply. You have to hire the big four to walk the corridors and do. In my fund, we had 3 or 4 companies with re-domiciled to the US because after writing to RBI for 1 year, they didn't get a reply.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Piyush Goyal knows this. When did the angel tax go? Last year. We've been working to remove the angel tax for 8 to 9 years. We are getting harassed. I've been investing for 13 years. We got a portfolio of 500 startups out of 50 are DeepTech startups. We have put our own money to work. RBI is very oppressive, tyrannical to all the startups. When the industry goes and meets them, they push you around. They just look down upon you. They're not there to help you. They're there to control you. This control mentality is ruining this country. The government talks about deregulation, but what have they done with RBI? RBI has not done any reforms in the last many years. They still got the 1999 FEMA Act, 1999, I think. And they threaten you, they'll send you to ED. They don't reply to letters. We want reforms. We want regulations to take this country to $10 trillion by 2032, 2033. We cannot work with regulations. We took the country to $2 trillion. We require different regulations. Let me give you another data point. Right now, we're having a surplus on service exports, $18 to $20 billion. That's $240 billion. We have a trade deficit in goods of $270 billion. Next 2 or 3 years, the surplus on services and the deficit on goods could match. That's the time when the Indian currency could become stronger and much more valuable and will not depend on flow of capital to come in, the country to meet a deficit. That's going to happen. For God's sake, ease us out. Ease out everything else. Don't make us fight with 2 hands tied behind our back. Put little bit more funding. Help our young people grow and make them positive. Help the deep tech sector. Have fixed programs and get the private sector involved. Don't leave it to the bureaucrats to go on and on. The C&AG will make everybody's life miserable. Financial person in every department will make a life miserable with government procedures. We need something like the Space Tech Fund, Space Tech Policy, right? That made a difference. Like that, we need a Pawan Goenka in every of these sectors to work with the government.
Based on his past comments that India would have more than 1 lakh startups by 2025 that can create a value of more than $1 trillion, Mr. Mohandas Pai explained.
We have now created $600 billion so far. I think 2025 year end, we could be 650, 700 because the last 3 years we've not got money coming in. Last 3 years we've been having $10, $12 billion. Whereas 3 years ago, we got $42 billion. We need more money coming in. Government must ease the regulations for money to come in when they sell to take money out. And I think a lot of work has to be done by the government.
Finally, here are the 3 key takeaways that Mr. Mohandas Pai suggests to the Modi's government on how to support innovation in the Indian startup ecosystem.
I will do 3 things. First, I will say that I'm going to invest 10 to 20,000 crores every year for the next 5 years. And I'm going to give the money through a fund of fund and invest in some larger them. I'm going to put money to work in R&D with other agencies. So that will really change the circumstance. Government of India spends 50 lakh crores. Spending 15, 20,000 crores is nothing for them. They can easily do to build the country. Second, I will change the regulations to allow long-term investors like LIC and the pension funds to invest, incentivize them to invest. I'll change the regulations so the market opens up, they'll be able to invest, and I'll make sure that the regulations are changed. And third, I will make sure the RBI regulations are changed to make money come in, and when the money is sold, goes out, stop the harassment of AIFs, ease the regulation, discuss with the AIF industry, and help them out to simplify many things so there's no fear of doing things, and work with the banks to make sure the banks don't harass you because RBI harasses them. I'll work with SEBI to ease the regulation for AIFs because the last 3 years, too many regulations have come. Too many controls have come.
Yes.
AIF investors are sophisticated investors. They don't require SEBI any protection. For the last 3 years, too many regulations have come. I will do these 3 things immediately if I was the minister for the government.
Folks, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Join us next time as we continue exploring the dynamic world of startups and the valuable lessons from their journeys.